Reminder, all this week, we are sharing some of our favorite stories from the last year here on the 208. Some may not have been the biggest headlines, but they did make a big impact on us and possibly you. Tonight, Katija Stjepovic shares her 2021 year in review.
The year was full of highs and lows, goods, bads, deaths, and births. But it started off in, well, the pandemic. And by summer, there were so many deaths that some Idaho funeral homes started to run low on space for their bodies.
This truck is about 8.5 or 9 feet wide. It's lined on both sides with racks that are 3 high. There's room for an additional approximate 10 if we use additional tables or something of that nature. One came available and we brought it up about 2 weeks ago now and got it ready and it was needed immediately. In 47 years, I've never experienced anything like this. If we see that trailer fill up, I think that we're gonna see a lot of other things change around the area.
Idaho hit its peak number of hospitalizations from COVID on September 24th at 793 Idahoans fighting for their lives. The number of deaths also made headlines on September 26th at 33 deaths reported in just one single day. Among the many who passed was the beloved Garden Valley Fire Chief John Delvalle, who took on the role for over 21 years. He died from complications of COVID-19.
It's really devastated us all. How do you put in words someone like John?
I talked to him on the phone, and he was in just the ER at that point, and I talked to him over the phone, and in true fashion, he was delegating tasks and making sure that we were carrying on without him. And that was the last I spoke to him.
I asked him, I said, John, when do you plan to retire? And he said, in 3 years. I'm going to work for 3 more years and then I'm going to retire. It was very, very, very hard. Yeah, he's going to be really missed, that's for sure.
And by that time, some people who chose not to get vaccinated in the beginning started to think twice. Take Kay Craig, who's been working in the medical field for more than 28 years at St. Luke's, for example. She filed a religious exemption to not get vaccinated, and not long after that, decided to retract that exemption and get vaccinated.
I was kind of skeptical. I didn't want to wear the mask, and I didn't want to wear or get vaccinated. Not in the society's face. Mm-hmm. But if we had an open window to what our doctors and nurses are going through down there, anything is even said at church, even if it comes from the pulpit, you got to still have a personal relationship with Jesus. You got to read it for yourself. Yeah, they went to school for that, but they're human too. Doctors are human, and everybody's human, and so do your own research and believe it for yourself and have faith for yourself.
And if you think the pandemic has run long, how about the lifespan and travels of a book that was checked out over a century ago, only to be checked into the Boise Library 110 years late?
November 8th of 1911, I think, was its last due date. The checkout desk downstairs noticed that it was rather old and it didn't have any current markings, so they looked into it. I don't think anybody here has seen a book checked in 100 years later.
At more than 40,000 days late, if the library still had the same late fee policy, whoever checked it out would owe more than $800. This year also forced people to get outdoors, setting some pretty lofty goals. This one might put some of us adults to shame.
On June 26th was when I summited my first peak, Hyndman Peak.
I want to know why you decided to hike all the 12ers in Idaho.
I decided this because, well, I have 2 friends. They were 8 and 6 when they did all the 12ers. They're the 2 youngest to do all of them, and they inspired me when I was 7 years old. There were some points when Mom got really nervous.
That's because it's hard sometimes to watch a 9-year-old boy out on a knife-edge ridge.
Yeah.
But I was confident, and you were confident, and we were also cautious. We never did anything that we thought was too dangerous.
9-year-old Camden Patry's next goal? Mount Everest.
Sometimes it's hard to have a 9-year-old keep their shoes tied, and they're doing that. That's impressive.
I know. After I did that story, I was like, okay, first step, the gym, so I can get, my energy level.
Work up to it. Now, you couldn't put everything that you wanted to in that story. Something you wanted to, or you left out.
Yeah, and it was a big part of my experience this past year. I covered it, from the moment we got there at 2 in the afternoon. Of course, the Boise Town Square Mall shooting that killed 2 and injured several. And while it was the community mourned and people lost their lives, and it was absolutely tragic, I want to share some numbers with our viewers. 26-year-old Jo Acker, she was the security guard who was shot and killed doing her job. I looked at their GoFundMe just before the show. They raised over $50,000 to their family. So the community, people who didn't even know, her or her family, just wanted to give back. And then 49-year-old Roberto Arguelles, he was also shot and killed just shopping. They actually raised money to his family, $56,000 from the public, to have his body actually taken to Mexico to be back with his family once again. So I think, we look at these things, and these are tragic events that, tear apart the community, but in ways, they can bring them together. And I think that's kind of what we saw with this shooting.
It definitely shows the spirit of this community, this state, when those events happen like that. Absolutely. Thanks, Katija.